some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this?
Are you rethinking this policy?
Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only three people you can trust in life: your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this? It's my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening and welcome to Patrick Christys Tonight, and I will take you straight to Australia with Ben Leo. Why? Well, something very strange is going on I'm a Celebrity. Is someone afraid of Nigel being crowned King of the Jungle? Is there really a potential stitch-up at play? Our man down under will have the very latest. Nigel is currently in the jungle. In fact, he'll probably be waking up about now and has no idea that something could be brewing. So for reaction, I've got ex-campmates. I've got people very close to Nigel. I've got some of the top journalists in the business as well coming your way talking of ex-campmates. Diana's confidant, Paul Burrell, is on to discuss Omid Scobie's new book, Trashing the Royal Family. But nobody knows who the author is.
I've not heard of Omid Scobie.
No.
Author, royal author.
Sorry, no.
Omid Scobie, the royal author?
No.
Oh, it's a shame, isn't it? On the panel tonight, it is Nigel's former political colleague, Suzanne Evans. We've got Tory MP Randall on the panel, Giant Wardener, and author Rebecca Reid. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, and it's all happening. Email me now. Do you think there's something weird going on at I'm a Celeb? GBviews at gbnews.com. Tweet us at GBnews. Well, we make the news after the headlines.
Patrick, thank you, and good evening to you. Well, the news tonight is that Israel has confirmed that the 12 newly released hostages have arrived in Israel on the 5th day of an extended truce with the Hamas terror group. For those people watching on television, the hostages can be seen in these pictures, taken a short while ago at the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. The Israeli Defence Forces saying 10 Israelis and 2 Thai nationals are now on their way home to their families, notwithstanding those medical checks, of course, first. The eldest of them is 84-year-old Ditsa Hyman. We're also hearing 30 Palestinian prisoners have been released, believed to be 15 women, 15 boys. Meanwhile, the US has slightly changed its approach to Israel today and has asked Israel to take greater care if there are any future strikes on Gaza. The White House saying civilians and vital infrastructure must be protected. But that hostage and prisoner swap has taken place tonight in Gaza. Now, here in the UK, schools could be forced to stay open during strike action under tough new legislation proposed by the government. The Education Secretary said today strikes over the last year were some of the most disruptive on record for pupils. Teaching unions described the plans for minimum service levels, as they're called, as shameful. But Gillian Keegan said it's about achieving a fair balance. Rates of shoplifting are on the rise, with the sharpest increase seen in Conservative constituencies. In 2014, the party changed the law to classify the theft of items under £200 as low-value shoplifting. That meant some police forces disregarded it as petty theft. Meanwhile, shop price inflation has eased for the 6th month in a row as retailers compete fiercely for customers ahead of Christmas. According to the British Retail Consortium figures today, shop prices were over 4% higher than last November, but it's down from October and it's the lowest inflation rate since June. And food inflation overall slowed to 7.8% from October, and that's the 7th consecutive drop because of lower energy prices feeding into lower costs, particularly in the dairy product sector. Now, incredible pictures today of the first transatlantic flight powered by cooking oil and animal fats as it left Heathrow and then landed in New York. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner, piloted by a Virgin Atlantic pilot, was the first time a commercial airline had operated a long-haul flight entirely powered by so-called green fuels. Aviation enthusiasts have been celebrating the milestone, but environmental campaigners have questioned whether alternative fuels really are 100% sustainable. And lastly, samples of a 4.5 billion-year-old asteroid could reveal the origins of life on Earth. The teaspoon-sized specimen taken from the asteroid Bennu is being examined right now by scientists at the Natural History Museum here in London. It could help shed some light on some of the biggest questions about how the Earth was formed. Experts are saying it could even hold vital clues to the formation of our planet and our entire solar system. On TV, online, DAB+ radio and the TuneIn app. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, 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 before we get stuck into the royal stuff, yesterday we brought you the inside scoop, didn't we, on what was allegedly going on in the jungle. And by that, we mean that ITV potentially, anyway, airbrushing bits of Nigel out. Well, let's cross to Australia now, where our reporter Ben Leo is beachside with the inside track on the latest in the jungle. And Ben, it just feels to me as though something's a bit off.
Yeah, evening, Patrick. It's all kicking off, isn't it? I seem to have burnt my bridges down under. I've just had a crack at ITV on Camilla's show. I was complaining that they've been speaking to the Mail and the Mirror about my story and not having the courtesy to even get back to me. I didn't need their confirmation that my story was true. Just as a reminder for anyone who doesn't know what the story is, I revealed to you exclusively last night that Nigel Farage had been having fairly interesting conversations in the jungle about Donald Trump, his friendship, how he helped him on the election campaign trail, and ITV never broadcast that conversation on air. That played into rumours and theories that they were deliberately starving him of airtime because lefty producers want him out the jungle, essentially. So yeah, it's developing at a rapid pace. Interestingly, tonight, in the next episode of I'm a Celeb, which I think is just kicking off now or any minute, they have extended the episode by about 15 minutes. And I understand that it's because they've included a clip of a row that Nigel has with Nella Rose, the YouTuber, the influencer, about cultural appropriation or something akin to that. So that comes fresh off the back of our story that they're airbrushing him. So are ITV panicking? Is there some substance to the theory that they're deliberately airbrushing Nigel out because they want him out of the jungle? Who knows? My theory is, and I'm just going to put this out here now because I don't care anymore. I've blown up all my relationships in Australia now with ITV. They're not talking to me. But my theory is that they got him in the jungle because they wanted to discredit him and stamp out any future political bid. Of course, it's no secret he's going to get back involved in politics, or at least he wants to, once the Tories get wiped out. They found out that actually he's a pretty decent guy. There's nothing to smear him on, so the end result is they want to just starve him with airtime and get him out of the jungle. Call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't know, but that seems to make the most sense.
Well, Ben, we will have to wait and see, but you can be sure that any updates we will give you right here on GB News. Ben Leo there, who I sense might be a busy man tonight. Now, Omid Scobie keeps coming back and irritating people a bit like a royal boil. Now, today marked the release of his royal hatchet job Endgame, which includes some of the most egregious accusations against the palace ever to make it to print. But before I get into those, I'll ask again, who even is its author? I went down to Buckingham Palace, a place stacked full of royal superfans, royal fanatics, to find out if anybody there has a Scooby about Scobie. Have you ever heard of Omid Scobie?
No.
OK. Author, done some books on Harry and Meghan?
No.
Have you heard of Omid Scobie?
No.
I have not heard of Omid Scobie.
Scobie. Author, royal author?
Sorry, no.
Omid Scobie, the royal author?
No.
Not much luck there then, but this is what we do know about him. Omid Scobie is the unofficial mouthpiece for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, masquerading as a royal journalist. As a writer for US magazines, he's never been part of the official royal rota, meaning, well, he basically gets the same kind of royal sources, well, ketchup. But as such, he's become a notorious defector to Team Sussex, regurgitating on a daily basis Harry and Meghan's own fantasy that they are, in fact, the victims. His first book, titled Finding Freedom, was pure Sussex propaganda after it emerged that Meghan had been covertly briefing Scobie with her side of the story, something that only really came to light in court. And he has a history of playing hard and fast with the truth, even lying about his age to an interviewer by 6 years. 3 years later, or was that 6? Hard to tell with Scobie, isn't it? Scobie has finally admitted guilt, explaining that he, quote, felt insecure about turning 40. I wouldn't know, I'm only 12. Anyway, so now that you know the man, what about the substance? In this latest hit job, Endgame, the accusations range from the bizarre to the truly ridiculous. Like his claim that the king needs a fresh ironed pair of shoelaces and asks that exactly an inch of toothpaste is squeezed for him from a crested silver dispenser. But more gravely, the King and Prince William are apparently locked in a struggle over the future of the monarchy. Indeed, William may seem like a pussycat to all of us, but in Scobie's world, he's a big bad wolf. Scobie writes, it's a different story when the stage lights go down, when his temper flares behind closed doors. He more closely resembles his famously ill-tempered father, except even more hot-headed. Meanwhile, his wife, the Princess of Wales, is, quote, cold, a voiceless symbol of courtly resolve, too terrified of doing anything other than grinning photo ops. She is, of course, irked at being in the shadow of the shimmering Meghan Markle. And what about the exiled Prince Harry, the grumbling Duke? Unlike the rest of his family, he's supposedly in a great place. Oh, pull the other one, Omid. This isn't Vegas and nobody's playing naked billiards. He's not happy being Meghan's PA, and it shows. But will these claims be sending shockwaves through the palace? Well, here's just a flavour of some of the scathing reviews. The Telegraph says Omid Scobie's Endgame is ludicrous propaganda for Team Sussex. In the usually pro-Sussex New York Times, he does no favours. Their chapter reads like a press release cooked up by ChatGPT. My personal favourite is a hit job reading like a Mumsnet post about the world's worst in-laws. Scobie says it's endgame for the monarchy, but given that one review of his book called it a turkey and said that he couldn't write for nuts, I suspect Endgame should have been the title of his autobiography. But let's get the thoughts of my panel, shall we? Political commentator Suzanne Evans, former Environment Secretary Ranil Jayawardena MP, and author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Suzanne, I will start with you on this, really. I mean, this just seems to be a bit of an egregious hatchet job. They had to pull one of the copies, or the set of copies from the Netherlands, for it, you know, allegedly revealing a name that may have been linked to the royal racist side of things. Scobie denies ever putting that in there, but it's not gone too smoothly for him.
No, it's absolutely bizarre. I mean, what a ridiculous load of allegations about King Charles. Who the hell irons shoelaces? Not even kings iron their shoelaces, surely. And an inch of toothpaste? How profligate. I can't manage more than about a quarter of an inch on my toothbrush. I've got a nice electric one. Maybe Prince Charles is using the old-fashioned. What a load of rubbish. It's ridiculous. So here we have a man who's clearly already written one book about the Sussexes, and now he's writing another one. Now, this idea that... it's kind of smacks to me of the old days of Princess Diana. Do you remember her book by Andrew Morton, Diana, Her True Story? And everybody denied that Diana had a hand in it. And then, of course, it turned out that she was feeding him tapes. Now, I'm not saying that's happening here, quite clearly. But let's be honest. Harry and Meghan have not come out and denounced this, have they?
No, and that's exactly my next question. Ranil, you know, do you think that Harry and Meghan, if this was your family and someone was putting things to print about, you know, your relatives being cold or distant or at war with each other or saying some very mean things, I imagine you would feel compelled to come out and say something about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is all just so sad. I mean, the royal family is doing exactly the right thing. Her late Majesty always said, didn't she, never complain, never explain. I think they're absolutely right just to see this for what this is, which is, as you said, a hit job, a fantasy, written by someone who believes in a victim complex, sadly. But I do think it's sad because Harry and Meghan had a great opportunity to serve this country, to serve people around the world in a very privileged position. They could have used those positions for good, and it's a very sad outcome that the Fab Four is no more.
Just a reminder that Paul Burrell, Diana's confidant, will be joining us very, very shortly to get his take on all of this. But, Rebecca, I'll go to you now. And, I mean, do you really think that stuff like this should be written about our royal family?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think part of the point of the royal family, and I love them and I enjoy them very much, is that it's gossip and it's something we can all share in. They are the Kardashians, people who have Argos. Like, that is why they're fun for us. But the point is, if they were trying to do a hatchet job on them, Omid Scobie did the worst possible job. Calling Kate cold and coachable, brilliant. That's what we want. We don't want silly and showy Aussie. Cold is good. Coachable is good. Suggesting that King Charles has some weird habits, cool, quirky, interesting. We all know that he's weird about having boiled eggs with all his food. That's fine. We all know he's eccentric. All they've done is sort of tried to say mean things about people that actually we quite like. If Prince William is quite firm and direct and powerful behind the scenes, cool.
One of the big accusations, Suzanne, is that the royal family is becoming increasingly unpopular. He's trying to make the case that this is the end game for the royals. And I can't help but feel he's going to look a bit daft when, you know, he's been and gone, Meghan and Harry have been and gone, and the royal family is still standing tall and proud in however many generations' time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you sometimes get the idea from the media that the royal family are unpopular. I think it's absolute tosh. I disagree with Rebecca's categorisation. It's only people with Argos that like them. Have you got an Argo?
I wish I had an Argo.
No, so do I. They're too expensive for me. But, you know, they have a massive amount of support within the entire country, really. And you sometimes miss this with headlines. And he will go, and the royal family will be there, and they will stay there. Look at the charity work they do, the number of people they support, the money they bring into the country through tourism. It's fantastic. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the big contrasts, isn't it, really? When you look at, you know, the kind of quiet, dedicated service that Meghan was not prepared to do, right? So, you know, Kate would go and unveil a plaque outside a shopping centre in Milton Keynes, no problem. She'll be there and she'll look glamorous while she does it. Meghan fled the country to avoid that kind of stuff.
Sadly, this is the missed opportunity for both Harry and Meghan, that they had the opportunity to prove that they were willing to serve this country, and indeed the Commonwealth, which I know was something that was floated as a possible role for them, and they chose not to. And you know, you're absolutely right. And the alternative, of course, given that, you know, actually the British public is very firmly behind the monarchy, that's great. But the alternative is having someone like President Biden as our head of state. I mean, can you imagine that? Or indeed President Tony Blair. President Tony Blair. I mean, that's what we would have had in the 90s if we didn't have a monarchy. So we've got to be very careful what we wish for.
I think we'd be more likely to get, like, President Dean Gaffney. I think that the country is voting at both face proved this country can't vote for
I'm delighted we're agreed. I'm delighted we're agreed.
I think you're kind of making a version of the same point there. But should they just name this royal racist?
It's not racist. That person, what? I'm sorry.
So you're yes.
I think that person was racist, but I think there was an element of there are people of a certain generation who do not necessarily know what you can and can't say.
Well, no, I'm not being funny. It's a perfectly... so I'm married to a white British woman. It is not in any way racist to wonder what our children are going to look like.
Exactly.
And you know what? Our girls and our son, they all look slightly different.
It's no more than me thinking, is my daughter going to have red hair?
Well, to be fair, Ranald, you might have some direct experience of this.
Yeah.
Well, finish what you were saying.
And you know, and so the point is that, you know, the fact that one of my daughters has darker hair and darker eyes and slightly darker skin than the other, that's a perfectly normal observation to make, and indeed a perfectly normal conversation point for family, friends to
even
talk about.
White relatives.
Yes, absolutely. For my mother-in-law, if she wants to, you know, talk to us about, oh, you know, she looks a lot more like you. Well, I wonder what Henry and my son, before he arrived, I wonder what Henry's going to look like. You know, that's a perfectly normal conversation.
But it's not the same thing, but my boyfriend is ginger, and if somebody came over to me and they were like, Rebecca, are you worried that if you and Mark have a baby, it'll be Ginger? I'd be like, that's really rude.
That's Ginger. It's odd. To be fair, but I'm Ginger too.
No, but as in, there is a way of expressing it that is rude, and there's a way of expressing it that's gentle.
But there's also generational points that sometimes people are less.
And I am willing to have some truck with that, absolutely. Yeah. But I think, well, I sense that you need us to stop talking.
No, I just found it really interesting that we've managed to deviate from Ranel's, long-standing cultural ethnic heritage to ginger hair in like seconds.
But doesn't that prove the point that actually the fact that they're saying this is racist is totally bonkers?
But do you take my point that it could have been well meant or it could have not been well meant, and we don't know? Clearly, Harry and Meghan, whatever someone said, would take it badly.
All right.
Well, they would take offence because that's what they do.
Yeah, they do. And also they have to because they don't have any more content. They have to keep making more content.
All right, OK, well, we've got loads more on this. Like I said, Paul Burrell is coming away shortly. But coming up, are ITV bosses airbrushing Nigel out of I'm a Celebrity because they fear a left-wing PR storm? Top publicist and PR guru Mark Borkowski, who's represented celebrities in the jungle, gives us his expert insight very, very shortly. But next, as Sussex stooge Omid Scobie brands the Princess of Wales as cold and a voiceless symbol in his shocking new book, is the relationship between Prince Harry and William now irreparable? Princess Diana's former butler and confidant gives his exclusive reaction. That's live, that's next. I'll also get the one-time I'm a Celeb campmate's thoughts on Nigel Down Under. Don't move.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Ah!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
to find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you. Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, Omid Scobie has lambasted the Princess of Wales as a Stepford-like royal wife who is cold and a voiceless symbol in his desperate new book, Endgame. Meghan's mouthpiece takes aim at Kate, calling her a shiny thing who is prone to copying her sister-in-law's style with none of her outgoing nature and leadership potential. I mean, good grief, hold the sick bag. Prince William is also in the firing line and has been painted by Scobie as a power-hungry and opportunistic heir who can be difficult to handle. Well, joining me to discuss this now is Princess Diana's close friend and former butler. It's Paul Burrell. Paul, thank you very, very much. Surely Diana would have wanted Harry to come out now and denounce all of this rubbish.
Absolutely. Those boys, Harry should know better than to do what he's doing. He was taught better than that. His mother brought him up very well. They had a very privileged lifestyle and they knew the rules. And here we go again. We go again because this information for this book is obviously coming from close sources to Harry and Meghan. And you have to remember that they're no longer part of the royal family, they're celebrities. But their only USP is royal gossip. And whilst ever they can spin some more royal gossip and pull the carpet from under other members of the royal family, then they're relevant. This isn't the end game. Absolutely not. 1,000 years royal history down the pan? I don't think so. Kate hasn't put a foot wrong. And Kate has something which Meghan doesn't have. Class. And class is timeless. And Kate doesn't have to answer back because she just has to keep doing what she's doing because she's doing it perfectly. Now you can see our king and queen in waiting doing exactly what we want them to do. They are going to be sat on the throne one day. Harry and Meghan aren't. And that must be a very bitter pill to swallow, knowing that Kate will have everything at her disposal and she has a wonderful family and a loving husband beside her. And that must rankle. I mean, recently I went to St. George's Chapel and I thought to myself, this ocean of goodwill which Harry and Meghan had when they married was drained. Because she didn't want it. She didn't want to be an also-ran. She didn't want to be a supporting actress. She wanted to be a star. And that's the real reason why they left for America. I wish them well. I do. But leave our royal family alone. Leave the king alone. He's a steady hand on the tiller. He's keeping the ship safe for when William will take over.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a series of very, very good points there. This idea that, oh, you know, there were times when Meghan and Kate were together and Meghan was, you know, out in front and Kate didn't like it. I mean, I think the fact is that Kate was doing her job and Meghan was massively overstepping the mark, wasn't she?
Kate always knew her position. William knows his position. Harry should know his position. Harry should know that his mother brought him up to support his brother on his way to being king. That was his role. But Harry's decided, since he's got married, he's decided that that's not the role for him. That should have been the role. They would have been such an asset for the royal family. As one of your panel just said, there was a dream that they would represent the monarch in the Commonwealth. That would have been a perfect job for them. But they threw it all away, that ocean of goodwill, and they threw away the goodwill from the people of this country, and they threw away their own inheritance. They threw away everything. And I wonder what Prince George, little Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet will think one day when they're not part of this institution, which is great, when they grow up and they say, well, we're a prince and princess. Why aren't we part of this? They will miss out on their heritage.
Yeah,
they'll miss out on getting to know Louis, George and Charlotte.
I
think
just
it's
think
very
it's
sad.
so sad, Paul. It's so sad, Paul, that, you know, they like to say they think they're doing the best thing for the kids. And yet, surely, these children are going to grow up and really wish that they'd been a part of that and be very, very confused about the way that their parents went about it. And also, what kind of morals do you think is it teaching those children that when somebody writes a book that you are claiming you've had nothing to do with, that is slating, saying very personal things about Kate, you know, a woman, where's the women's rights in all of this? You know, that your mum and dad didn't stand up and say, blood is thicker than water, this is inappropriate and shouldn't have been written.
Well, there's nothing bad said about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in that book. It's all bad about our royal family. And we don't like it here in Britain. They are our royal family. And I'm going to stand up proud. I haven't always seen eye to eye with the king, but I'm a monarchist. I want to cross that bridge with King Charles and Queen Camilla because I want to get to the other side and see William and Kate on the throne. I think that William and Charles have a very good relationship because Charles knows that he's just keeping the seat warm until his son can grow his family and his children grow up. Then William will have time to do this job, which he's an apprentice for right now. Harry isn't. Harry will never come back. There is not a place for him.
You mentioned Prince William there, and some of the allegations in this book are that the King and Prince William are locked in an increasing struggle as they compete for public approval, a battle over the future of the monarchy. You know, the Sussex stooge there is claiming that in Endgame that Prince William's impatience to become king infuriates his father, who's repeatedly been left seething at these perceived attempts to upstage him. They also mention, you know, William's temper, like he's one person in public, one person behind the scenes. Can you just respond to both of those claims?
Yeah. Yes. William and Charles have different personalities. Of course they are. But William doesn't want to be king right now. He's very happy living at Kensington Palace and the cottage in Windsor Great Park. He's happy watching his family grow. George is about to go to Eton. Charlotte's behind him. And little Louis, they want to spend time as a family together. They're happy spending their family time. In fact, they make provision, the fact that when the children are on holiday, they don't do public engagements. They do public engagements during the daytime, and they like to be home at night for their children because their family is growing. The king knows this, and the king knows that one day these children will be grown, and then will be the time to hand over to William and Kate. So there's no conflict. They have different ideas of how to do things. The king is doing a very good job in the last year. He's following his mother's example, 70 years of goodwill on the throne. He's doing a great job. He's keeping the ship steady, and we're just waiting for William and Kate to come up.
Paul, can I just ask you, I mean, you were obviously in I'm a Celebrity as well. Nigel Farage is in there at the moment. When you were in I'm a Celebrity, were you ever worried about, oh gosh, I'm trapped in this camp. I've got no idea what's being said about me on the outside. I've got no idea what the press might be cooking up about me.
No, you are in their hands. Everything you do in the jungle, everybody is jockeying for screen time. Everybody's looking at the cameras, waiting for the next explosion. And people do create arguments, especially knowing that they're going to be, look at him there in the bath. I think he's doing a great job, you know. I've been listening to some of the things he's saying, and he talks a lot of common sense. It's just that other people sometimes try to trip him up. They're trying to dig a pit for him to fall into, but he's far too clever for that.
Yeah, I've had people emailing in GBViews at gbnews.com saying they wonder if some of the questions are being planted to him because it seems to come out of the blue. People trying to trip him up. Could it be that people behind the scenes are so, you know, afraid that Nigel is coming across as popular as he is and that they want to try to concoct something that would get him out of there, you know? I mean, the plot thickens, doesn't it, Paul?
Yes, it does. This is an entertainment programme, and they're going to tease you. And the producers do that. And tonight's show will be a little bit different because they're going to give you a little bit more of Nigel than they usually do.
Well, this is interesting and actually a very controversial point, but Paul, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much. Always a tremendous pleasure. Paul Burrell there,
Good to be with
Princess
you, Patrick.
Diana's friend and former butler and confidant. Thank you very, very much. Well, coming up, yes, as Sussex mouthpiece, Omid Scobie nails his colours again to the Sussex mast. Who was actually better for the royal family, Kate or Meghan? I went out and about and spoke to people at Buckingham Palace, but GB News superstar Nana Akua takes on journalist Nina Mishkov in a clash on that shortly. But next, as the clamour grows that Nigel Farage is being edited out of I'm a Celebrity because they fear him winning, would that be a PR masterstroke or a total disaster? PR guru Mark Borkowski, who's represented clients in the jungle, including the likes of Noel Edmonds, offers his expert opinion. You don't want to miss that.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Ah!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affects us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only three people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Akua, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you. Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, last night we brought you a sensational exclusive story through our reporter down under, Ben Leo. He told us that ITV appears to have airbrushed Nigel Farage out of I'm a Celeb with fascinating footage of Nigel entertaining his campmates with anecdotes about his good friend Donald Trump, failing to make the final edit of the show. So, should ITV be showing more of Nigel, or are they even regretting inviting him on the show? Something very interesting appears to be going on at ITV. doesn't it? So yesterday, we had that exclusive, and then that started to gather traction. There wasn't really any kind of denial, and then the Mail Online decided to go and put it all over their front page, these rumours and accusations of Nigel being edited out, and then they send out a press release about what people can expect in the show, and all of a sudden, there's no mention of Nigel. Is he being airbrushed again? Then bang, at the last minute, oh, we're extending I'm a Celebrity by 15 minutes. It just starts to look a little bit like a circus. But I'm joined now by the brand and PR consultant, Mark Borkowski. Well, thank you very, very much. What on earth is going on at ITV, Mark?
Well, you're doing a very good job to maximise their investment. I mean, this whole what ITV need is an audience for this, and the best way of getting an audience is to generate a huge amount of interest, a huge amount of noise on social media to be talked about, because we've got to attract people to live broadcasts simply because that's where the advertising is. And they've paid a lot of money, I don't know if it's true, but a substantial amount of money, 1.5 million to Nigel Farage. They want to extract the full value for that. And he's delivering. He's delivering on that. He's the pantomime baddie in the camp, and that's a role they want to play with him.
But why, then, do you think that they've been so keen to try to airbrush elements of him out?
Well, that's an interesting question, because every day, the narrative changes. I mean, every day someone, I think for the last couple of days, Tony Bellew, the boxer, has obviously provided better value for them. It's a booking. They knew what they were getting with Farage as a package. He's a Marmite controversial figure, but has a substantial audience. There's probably a certain amount of nervousness with him. I don't know what happens with the editorial process. They have a very, sharp edit to what they want to show, but they know that they need him. They need him in the show. They made mistakes for past contestants by not doing enough work to keep them in the show, creating games, creating formats that saw them isolated, against somebody popular, and they lose them. They need to keep these people in. They don't want a happy camp. They want it to be generating that conversation outside the programme, as I said, to actually gain viewers. And let's see where he goes. I believe he's getting a lot of airtime tonight. I can see it popping up on my Twitter feed. So, clearly he's generating the type of audience on social media that they need to keep the numbers running for this show.
Well, it is, I think, a remarkable turn of events, because apparently they've been getting in trouble with advertisers saying they're not happy that they've given Nigel Farage a platform. We've got some really quite unhinged stuff being printed, mostly in The Guardian, from what I saw, which was about ITV and Debt. They'll have blood on their hands if Nigel Farage comes across well and then he ends up in Downing Street. They will have done this as well. And you just wonder, really, it just feels a little bit like a kind of circus being pushed and pulled from one direction to the other, does it not?
Well, it is. It's a bastard child of a circus meets a freak show. Look, Nigel Farage knows what he's doing. He's gone in for money, but also to reach a new audience. There's probably a lot of people on there who just know him as this sort of figure that's forever sort of causing controversy, in the media. Well, actually, the programme will depict a very precise character of him. And, of course, advertisers get nervous. Look what happened to his row with Coutts Bank. But they also understand there's going to be a hell of a backlash if they get it wrong.
Yeah.
So they're playing with nitroglycerine, aren't they? And,
talking of something that went wrong for them.
They don't want the explosion to blow up in their face.
Talking of something that went wrong for them, yeah. I mean, you, I think, had a little bit to do with Noel Edmonds, didn't you, during his time there? Apparently, ITV regretted the decision to pay Noel a lot of money, and then it didn't really work for them, did it?
Well, they paid a lot of money for Noel Edmonds, and I think he set a new high watermark to attract any other people to the jungle now that they want. then they're going to have to pay more. It's a progress. He really enjoyed it. I mean, he really enjoyed it, and he called it a bank raid because he was the first one to be voted out. That was their mistake. Their mistake was actually creating a game that saw a number of people, you know, in front who were more popular than Noel. But he was full of praise for it. I mean, look, this is a man bred on live TV, you know, bred by the BBC. He's a pro, and he said the production values for that show surpassed anything he'd worked in television before. He enjoyed it. He had fun. I think they regretted getting him out because he had this relationship with Harry Redknapp. He would have gone. I don't think he would have won it. I didn't expect him to win it. But most people go into that show, and they don't realise exactly what it is. You know, some people just sort of grab the money. They've never watched, and they get into an appalling situation where it is absolutely brutal. And the interesting thing is Farage has done his homework, Nigel's done his homework, and he probably knows what's coming. A lot of people go in there, they don't. And I never believed when Noel Edmonds told me that he was going into the jungle. I did not believe him. You know, I know how many formats he's been offered to do, and but he thought it would be a bit of fun. But he didn't know what was coming his way, but still enjoyed it.
OK, well, look, we await to see what happens, do we, Mark? Thank you very, very much. That is indeed PR and brand consultant Mark Wachowski. So coming up, as the Sussex's Omid Scobie claims that Harry and Meghan are in a great place while the royals are in their end game, is it really true based on the last year? I get stuck into Scobie's dire new book before getting some more reaction from my panel. We'll also have exclusive I'm a Celeb reaction and the most entertaining paper overview anywhere on the telly. There'll be some fascinating stories on those front pages. But next, yes, of course, this propaganda piece from Scobie. But who was better for the royal family, Kate or Meghan? I went out and about to Buckingham Palace earlier to ask people, find out what they said. GB News superstar Nana Akua takes on journalist Nina Mishkov. It's bound to be fireworks, don't move.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's time now for The Clash. And, of course, Omid Scobie's hit job endgame is carving an already widening wedge between the Sussexes and the palace. And the depictions of Kate and Meghan couldn't be more different. The Princess of Wales is portrayed as being cold and a Stepford-like royal wife compared to the Duchess of Sussex, who was a shimmering ornament in the royal family tree before she quit. But out in the real world, opinions are divided. So I wanted to find out who's Team Kate, who's Team Meghan, and here's what happened outside Buckingham Palace.
Or Meghan? Kate, there's only one person.
I don't know, Meghan, we've heard too much about her.
Depends who you ask, I don't really care.
Catherine, probably.
Okay,
Catherine, 100%.
And
Meghan.
Rare, why?
I just think like a personality.
I don't know who they are.
What a nice life that must be for that chap at the end there. Never heard of him. Anyway, but who are you backing? Let me know your thoughts. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Tweet me @gbnews. And while you're there, go and vote in our poll. I'll bring you those results. Well, to continue this debate, in the studio, I'm joined by GB News' very own Nana Acquia and esteemed journalist Nina Mishkov. Nana, I'll start with you. Who was better, do you think, for the royal family? Who's better in general, Kate or Meghan?
Well, it's obviously going to be Kate, isn't it? Clearly. And the reason why is because, as Omid Scobie's put in his book, Scooby-Doo, or whatever he is, in his book, what he said was that, they said people are saying that she's keen. Well, that's what you want, isn't it? You want someone who's keen to do the job. Why would you want somebody who doesn't want to do the job? That would be Meghan. She's no good. She doesn't want to do the job. So you want somebody who wants to learn, who, aspires to the people who are already in the royal family. The Queen appeared to love Kate. She gets on well with everybody. Why would you want somebody who's completely disruptive? If they want to go, let them go. She wanted to go. She wanted to go on a privacy tour. And, well, she ended up on Oprah.
I think you're Team Meghan, aren't you?
Yes, but I must say, I agree with you in that Kate is brilliant for the royal family.
Exactly.
She's wonderful, she's charming, she looks fabulous, she doesn't make a fuss, and that is why she is perfect for the royal family as it is today. It could be the 1950s, and what the royal family needs to do is to look to the future, because if you look at the statistics, 40% of Gen Z, that's the 15 to 24-year-olds, that's the future. Who cares what I think? I'm going to be off the planet, but, way before, anything major happens. Gen Z, 40% of them do not want a monarchy. And they are the people who can't, because they're taking...
But Nina, it starts like that, doesn't it? Because if you do anything, you'll notice that the older the people get, the more they become attached to the tradition of the monarchy. OK, so as people get older, they will warm to the traditions that they had, and those are the Gen Z that you're talking about. My daughter, now, she's 14, she loves Kate. She thinks Kate is fantastic, and Kate and William have already shown that they are ready to adapt with the times and move, and they have.
They haven't adapted.
Yes,
what good did Meghan do for the royal family?
The difference between Kate and Meghan is that Kate is very much. She's like a cardboard cutout. She is the perfect royal. She was like she was when they made that. She and William made that disastrous tour of the Caribbean. There they were in that jeep. They could have been there 50 years before, and it was a complete disaster. Now, Meghan has charisma. Kate does not. The press have tried for 5 years, for 5, 6 years, they have tried and tried and tried to make Kate every day in the press. She's beautiful, she's this, she wears Zara earrings. They've tried very, very hard to make her into somebody like Diana, and she's not. The thing about Meghan is she's the same as the people. Like this country, she's multicultural. She is.
So is Kate. No, just because she's mixed race.
She's made her own living.
Look. The bottom line is that people like tradition, and we like tradition, and people do enjoy that, and that's one of the things.
Older people
one
do,
of the
Meghan.
things. One of the things that people like about that is the continuity of the monarchy and the consistency of it. And so you may say older people like it, but my daughter, she's a teenager, she loves that consistency. Now, Meghan was disruptive for the royal family, and it hasn't worked out. We don't want somebody like that dealing with the royal family.
You say young people support Meghan.
No, they don't. And you know what? Nina? What will it take? What will it take for you to finally accept that Meghan really is not right for the royal family?
Look,
seriously, you even said that you agree with her. She went on Oprah. She lied. We all know they lied about racism. There was 17 clear inconsistencies.
This is going over old ground, and we know that we know this.
Well, it is relevant. That's why she's not. That's why she's.
I mean, what are the such terrible things that she said? But listen, let me just say to you, Meghan is somebody that we can actually look up to as a woman. Kate has never. Kate.
Well, what do you look up to?
Look, because when she was 11 years old, she changed Procter and Gamble's.
That's not even true.
It is
the
true.
story is the dad retold the story in the correct way.
You believe that, father? Procter and Gamble changed an ad for soap because Meghan wrote as an 11-year-old.
With respect, Nina, you know, look, you're a great woman.
You laugh, but she supported women. In 2015, she made a speech at the United Nations. Now, what has Kate done? What has Kate done? She was the daughter of a millionaire.
We can't keep going.
A daughter of a millionaire. She had a 3-day job in Jigsaw. She's never done a day's work properly in her life.
You can't keep going backwards on what she did when she was 11 and 15. I'm looking at what Meghan's doing now. What will it take, Nina, for you to accept that Meghan, first of all, she has lied consistently. Her and Harry are no good for the monarchy.
Consistently.
No, hold on a minute. They said there was a racist in the royal family, and then it turns out that apparently on Scobie's book there are 2. But yet, when Harry was talking to that Bradbury man on ITV, he then said racism. What racism? Oh no, it was unconscious bias. And then
it may be unconscious bias. But
but
Meghan did not use the word racism. This is going back to that. You are actually rewriting history.
Let me change tack a bit here. Let's talk about the charity work, right? So yeah, you've got Kate, especially out there doing her duty.
They found her a decent charity.
She's the patron of absolutely loads
of course, because that comes with the job. That comes with the job.
Megan left to go.
She did a brilliant work with the Grenfell Tower. So the women, she helped produce the cookbook. She helped women who were out of the work.
She went to the Tower and she did a bit of hugging, and then that was pretty much it.
What about the cookbook?
The cookbook was probably written by lots of other people with their recipes in there.
Oh, come on. You are such a cynic. You are such a cynic.
I'm not a cynic. I'm just looking at what I've seen of her.
You have been brainwashed by the press.
I think you have, Nina.
No, I haven't.
You know what? Even Iman Ayton, who's a Black Lives Matter activist, said that they've lied, and she couldn't.
Not lying.
Even she couldn't support them anymore.
Meghan created her own career. Don't you be so patronising.
We're running out of people who support these people.
OK, all right. OK, all right. Well, who do you agree with? As Omid Scobie brands the Princess of Wales cold and coachable, who was better for the royal family, Kate or Meghan? Simon on Twitter says it's not rocket science. Kate has more class and decorum. There's a couple of other these as well. Minza on Twitter says Meghan should have been better for the royal family, but they never let her. So there you go. A slight range of views there. Now, 95% of you agree that Kate is better for the royal family, while 5% of you say that Meghan is. Thank you for taking part in the poll. Now, coming up, as Omid Scobie alleges that the King and Prince William are locked in a struggle over the future of the monarchy. Is it, as he claims, an institution in decline? My royal masterminds, Lady C and Phil Dampier, join me to give their unfiltered analysis on that. And there's been a dramatic twist in the royal race round. But next, I tee off on Scobie's dire new book. We'll also have an exclusive I'm a Celebrity reaction and the most entertaining pay-per-view you will get anywhere on telly. I'm not pulling any punches, and you will get the headlines before anybody else. I guarantee you that. We'll cover it all, everything that's on the front and everything that's inside the book as well. There really is absolutely no need to go to bed. When we come back, I take you down under. See you in a tick.
Evening, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. The cold weather continues. Quite a few of us having a frosty start tomorrow morning, and for some there'll be some sleet and snow around as well. This area of low pressure just edging down through the North Sea, bringing some gusty winds, but also bringing more showers to northern Scotland and down the eastern side into northeast England, southeast Scotland. 1 or 2 sleet and snow showers may produce a covering through the night, and it could turn icy as temperatures plummet. A few rain showers scattered over the Midlands, Wales, southwest England. A bit more cloud here may just prevent a frost, but really from the Midlands northwards, many areas will be below freezing, rural spots well below freezing, and hence why it could be icy still. Well, we've got these showers coming in tomorrow over northern, northeastern Scotland, southeast Scotland, northeast England. Again, some sleet and snow is likely for a time. The cloud in the south should tend to break up, and so for many it'll be a day of sparkling sunshine, but it will be a cold feeling day. 2 or 3 for many across the north, maybe 5, 6 or 7, and perhaps a little higher in the far southwest. Milder air nudging back in here on Thursday, bringing some wet weather, damp and drizzly. The possibility of some sleet and snow, mostly over the moors in the southwest. Further wintry showers in parts of the east. Again, it could be icy first thing in the morning. But again, for many, it's a dry and a bright day, but it will again be on the cold side with temperatures mostly around 3 or 4 Celsius.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GBNews.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Patrick Christys Tonight, and something very, very strange is happening at I'm a Celeb. There are serious rumours about people desperately trying to get Nigel booted off the show. Ben Leo brought you the scoop yesterday that went all around the world about him appearing to be airbrushed out. And I'm going to go back down under in just a moment. Thank you very much, Ben. And today, ITV released a press release teasing the show. Nigel wasn't in it. Now they've extended the show by 15 minutes. There is something going on. Also, Meghan's lapdog, no, not Prince Harry, the other one, Omid Scobie, has released a book blasting the royal family. Lady Colin Campbell, royal insider and former I'm a Celeb campmate, tease off on both of our top stories. And strap yourselves in for the front pages hot off the press at 10:30. On my panel tonight, I have got Nigel's former political partner, Suzanne Evans, Tory MP, Ranald Jayawardena, and author Rebecca Reid. It's Patrick Christys Tonight. Watch this space. Email gbviews@gbnews.com. Is it the end game for Omid Scobie? Twitter is gbviews, at gbnews, I should say, as well. I'll see you after the headlines.
Patrick, thank you. Good evening. Well, the top story from the GB newsroom tonight. 12 newly freed hostages have arrived in Israeli territory and are now on their way home. Their release marks the 5th day of an extended humanitarian truce with the Hamas terror group. The Israeli Defense Forces saying those freed from captivity include 10 Israelis and 2 Thai nationals. The 75-year-old mother of a British-Israeli man is among them. We're also hearing that 30 Palestinian prisoners have been released, believed to be 15 women and 15 teenage boys. Meanwhile, in the United States, the White House has changed its approach slightly to Israel, asking Israel to take greater care if there are any future strikes on Gaza. The White House saying civilians and vital infrastructure must be protected. Now, in news here at home, schools could be forced to stay open during strike action under tough new rules and plans to be introduced by the government. Teaching unions have attacked the announcement as shameful, but the Education Secretary said recent strikes by teachers were some of the most disruptive on record. A total of 25 million school days were lost in the last year, something Gillian Keegan says we can't afford to repeat. Rates of shoplifting are on the rise, with the sharpest surge seen in Conservative constituencies. In 2014, the party changed the law to classify the theft of items under £200 as low-value shoplifting. That meant some police forces disregarded it as petty theft. Meanwhile, inflation, prices in the shops, has eased for the 6th month in a row as retailers compete fiercely for customers in the run-up to Christmas. According to the British Retail Consortium, shop prices were 4.3% higher than last November and down from October, and the lowest inflation rate since June. Food inflation, meanwhile, slowed as well to 7.8% from October. That's the 7th consecutive drop because of lower energy prices feeding into lower costs, particularly in the dairy sector. Now, the first transatlantic flight powered by cooking oil and animal fats has landed in New York. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner was the first time a commercial airline had operated a long-haul flight entirely powered by so-called green fuels. Aviation enthusiasts are celebrating the milestone, but environmental campaigners have cast doubt on the flight, questioning whether alternative fuels really are 100% sustainable. And samples of a 4.5 billion-year-old asteroid could reveal the origins of life on Earth. The teaspoon-sized specimen taken from the asteroid Bennu is being examined by scientists at the Natural History Museum here in London. It could help shed some light on some of the biggest questions about how the Earth was formed. Experts say it could even hold vital clues to the formation of planets and our wider solar system. That's the news on GB News, across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
Let's cross live now straight away, where our reporter Ben Leo is in Australia. He's beachside for the inside track on the latest from the jungle. Now, Ben, yesterday you gave the world an exclusive that's gone absolutely everywhere about allegations that ITV were trying to airbrush Nigel out of the jungle. And there's been some very peculiar behaviour today from ITV, hasn't there? There was a press release that was sent out, didn't have Nigel in it, then all of a sudden the show gets extended and potentially Nigel is in it. I know that you've got a theory or two, Ben. What's going on?
Hello, Patrick. Yeah, all getting a bit fishy down under, and I'm not talking about the local seafood restaurant. ITV every day will send out a press release to all the press, giving them a bit of a heads up about what's in that night's episode of I'm a Celebrity. Today, they didn't mention Nigel in the press release. They talked about everybody else and scenes that were going to happen in tonight's show, but Nigel wasn't mentioned. The caveat is there is a line in that release that says things mentioned here aren't necessarily guaranteed to be in the show. But it's funny, isn't it? As soon as the episode is aired on ITV, I think it's just about finished, they extend the episode at the very last minute by about 15 minutes, and they include an explosive confrontation between Nigel and, surprise, surprise, Nella Rose, the permanently offended Gen Zer, this time about cultural appropriation. Nigel was saying, look, I don't know what we're allowed to say or do anymore. Can you dress up as a Mexican? Can you not? And Nella got upset with him, basically hinting that he was racist. They then cut to other scenes where campmates were asking amongst themselves what the argument was about. Danielle Harrell, the ex-EastEnders actress, she said that Nigel's built his career on inhumane views and policies. So I think the idea was to make Nigel look a bit stupid and potentially even a bit bigoted. But actually, it just proves that these Gen Zers, these 20-something-year-olds like Nella Rose, they're just perma victims and they'll look for anything to find offence from. But very interesting the way this is all developing since our exclusive yesterday on your show, Patrick, about the fact they'd censored Nigel's chat with Donald Trump and the growing theories that Nigel is being starved deliberately of airtime.
Yeah, no, indeed. Look, Ben, thank you very much. We will go back to you a little bit later on once the show finishes there for any updates. You just get the sense, don't you, that there's something going on now. ITV, gosh. But anyway, on to our other big story of the day for now. Omid Scobie called his latest royal hatchet job endgame. Presumably, he's talking about his own career, because the Sussex sycophant has published his perceived masterpiece. I say masterpiece. I mean, look, if the Mona Lisa is a masterpiece, then Endgame is a finger painting slapped onto a dirty sheet of A4 by a drunk baby. He promised a royal family in turmoil, explosive claims, bombshell revelations and a page-turner of epic proportions. Well, the reviews are in. An absolute turkey, an embarrassment to Harry and Meghan, and Scobie can't write for nuts, says one. A hit job, reading like a Mumsnet post, says another. A bit awkward, says another one. I tell you what is awkward, though, for Scobie, the fact that after 2 publications flogged all over the world and years spent trying to metaphorically curl up on the end of Meghan and Harry's bed, this is how well he is known. I went to Buckingham Palace today to ask a simple question. Have you actually heard of Omid Scobie? Have you ever heard of Omid Scobie?
No.
OK. Author, done some books on Harry and Meghan?
No.
Have you heard of Omid Scobie?
No.
I have not heard of Omid Scobie.
No. Author, royal author?
Sorry, no.
Omid Scobie, the royal author?
No.
I could have fired a cannon outside Buckingham Palace, a place full of royal fans, and not hit anyone who'd ever heard of this guy. There are some damning claims in this book, a rift between William and King Charles. There are some vicious things about Kate essentially being cold and the king can't command his family, which is a bit rich considering Harry doesn't even wear the trousers. He says that the royals are unpopular, but they're not. Scobie says that Harry and Meghan didn't brief him directly, but the question really is, can he believe a single word he says? If Harry and Meghan had an ounce of decency, they would publicly distance themselves from this guy. But they won't, because he's basically the only friend they've got. I think if they got remarried tomorrow, there'd be nobody there, would there? George Clooney wouldn't bother turning up this time. Having said that, it would probably only be the second time he'd ever been in the same room as her. Actually, I tell a lie. Elton John would turn up, sounding like a dodgy Elton John tribute act, butchering Your Song in his garbling club voice. Now, this book slags off Harry's dad, brother and sister-in-law, OK? How could you keep quiet on that if that was your family? They've even had to pull the book from the shelves in the Netherlands because it allegedly names a so-called royal racist. Scobie denies responsibility for that, naturally. The book is called Endgame. Scobie, Harry and Meghan are going to get a shock when they realise that there is more longevity in the great British historical and iconic institution of our dear royal family than there is in their pathetic Hollywood tittle-tattle. The royal family will stand tall while the others look set to roll around in the gutter. But to respond now, I'm joined again by political commentator Suzanne Evans, former Environment Secretary Ranil Jayawardena and author and journalist Rebecca Reid. Suzanne, I will start with you on this. We've heard quite a lot tonight about Omid Scobie and some of the allegations in all of this. But do you think that really, seriously, Harry and Meghan have to come out now, if they've got an ounce of decency, and draw a line under this and come out and hiss out?
I think they do. If they want any chance for reconciliation with the rest of the royal family, they've got to denounce this, really. The fact that they're not denouncing it suggests to me that they are pleased with what's happening, that they feel they're being backed by Omid Scobie in his book, and of course it will get some traction and some people will agree with it. But you know, I think even if you have had a rift with your family, surely if somebody attacks them in public, you've got to stand by them. Although then again, of course, we look at Meghan's family and it's completely dysfunctional. She obviously had a terrible relationship with her father. I gather her sister is suing her in court over libel claims. The whole background is, you know, Ranald said earlier, it's sad. It is actually terribly sad.
Do you think, Ranald, do you think this is it now for them? I mean, what more can there possibly be? I mean, they've had this, they've had an Oprah interview, they've had Netflix, they've had all sorts of stuff. Omid Scobie's had 2 bites of the cherry. You can't keep longing this thing out. I mean, this is just a grift, isn't it?
Well, I mean, there's always a route back for them, I'm sure, because ultimately they are family. But they're the ones that, sadly, it seems, have been pushing out these stories, and it's for them to, you know, own up and make amends. And you know, for all the talk of the royal family being in crisis, you know, I'd ask them, you know, are you okay? To Scobie, are you okay? Do you actually know what you are doing? Are you in a good place? Because I'm not sure any of them are.
What do you make of all of this, then, Rod?
I think it'll be the same as Wallace Simpson and Edward. David privately, Edward publicly. Is that right name? Yeah.
Why not?
I think, and I'm pretty sure that's right. But I think it will be like Wallace and Edward. I think it will be a lifelong relationship where they live semi-exiled and they take shots from afar when they need to. And as far as I understand it, with Wallace and Edward, they did get a sort of stipend from the royal family throughout their life, and they lived in Paris. And that money was kind of like hush money. And to be honest, if I were Charles, I would probably be thinking, give them an allowance, give them back their security, and basically sweeten the deal, because money's the only thing that people like that really listen to, in order to try and smooth things over, because the only interesting thing they have to say is about the royal family. So if you give them some money, then they won't need to keep saying things.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're obviously trying to make their own money, and all fair play to them for that.
They're doing a really bad job.
Well, I don't know. Meghan is apparently bringing out her autobiography. Harry's done his.
All the good stories are in it. Like everything, you know, like you're a writer, I'm a writer. You don't put everything good you've got to say in one thing, shove it out, and then they have to do more things. They can't have any more children, which is the #1 thing you would do. If you were like a blogger, you'd have another baby. They can't do that because they said they're only having 2 for the climate. They have got nothing else to offer. They have painted themselves into a corner.
Well, it'd be interesting, isn't it? I mean, Edward and Mrs Simpson, I think there was a very strong relationship. I'm not so convinced about Meghan and Harry, to be honest. So I suppose there's also the issue of, and goodness me, if they split up, my gosh, what we're seeing now is just going to look like a children's tea party compared to the mudslinging that's going to come out if they split up.
Have you not, you know, those couples, you know, where they feel like everyone's against them and it binds them.
Yeah.
And the more everybody's cruel to them, all they do is sit and drink a glass of wine in the evening talking about how everyone's against them and how the whole world's trying to bring them down. And I think that's probably exactly what they do.
What Edward and Mrs Simpson.
Yeah, exactly.
But the royal family themselves will stand the test of time. I mean, arguably the biggest joke of all in this book is the idea that it's called Endgame, right? And the fact that Omid Scobie, who most people there couldn't point out of a lineup, debatably not a household name in his own home, this guy coming out and saying, this is the Endgame, I am penning the end game of the royal family. I mean, it's absolute rubbish. This is an institution. It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, spot on. I mean, the British public are very clear that they're full square behind the monarchy. If you look at all of the polling, William and Kate get huge ratings. And, you know, the fact that it suggested William's a company man, that he's getting on with the job, that he's focused on this, isn't that what we want? That's actually reassuring. And, you know, the fact that they are committed to public service, it's got to be a good thing.
Look, I'm just going to spring something, because I do want to put a little bit of chlorine in this pool, because we're doing a lot on the royals, and a little bit later on I'm going to be talking to Lady C, Phil Dampier. They're going to give me their unfiltered analysis. We're also going to be going back down under for the latest. Really strange things appear to be taking place behind the scenes at I'm a Celebrity. We'll have the inside track on that. But can I tease ahead to something that we're going to be discussing when we do our paper review, because we've had a little bit of a sneaky peek at one of them. I'm going to put it's the idea of having a cap on net migration immigration, right? OK? And I know, Ranald, you obviously are a Conservative politician. Would you back a cap on net migration, do you think? Because Robert Jenrick appears to be open to the idea, our immigration minister.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, immigration is too high. I think everyone can see that. There are a number of things we need to get on and do, like lifting the salary threshold that's required. I think that's absolutely crucial. But also there's a wider conversation that we need to have in this country, which is we don't have enough children. And we've got to fill jobs. There's going to be a lag, but we've got to have more children, despite what some people say.
But Ranald, we would love to have more children. Your government made it impossible.
And so I think we've got to look at immigration in the round with all sorts of other policies and go back to a properly Conservative agenda, which is backing families who want to do the right thing.
I would like to have 5 more babies, and I absolutely can't
Would you
afford to
actually?
even have
Because
one
it looks
more.
like an absolute nightmare.
Oh, mate, well, you're not going to have any?
I don't know.
I think really for the country you kind of have to.
For the country.
For the country.
For the country.
Oh, no,
there will
it's
be
lovely,
very few
it's
people
fun, it's
watching
nice.
this now thinking the thing that this country needs is for
Some
me to
little Patrick
reproduce.
Christys.
Yeah. Right, anyway, on that note...
GBNews at GBNews.
Can you let us know if Patrick should have children, and if so, how many?
Let's do a
poll, please, a poll.
All right, look, we're going to be returning to this a little bit later when we get our press pack off the ground, because there are reports that Robert Jenrick could be following Suella's lead by taking aim at number 10 over the migration crisis. I'll bring that to you. But yes, next, as I was saying, my royal masterminds, Lady C and Phil Dampier, join me live to give their unfiltered analysis on Scobie's explosive book, including a dramatic twist in the royal race row. Yeah, you won't want to miss that.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
Ah!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The UK's most entertaining pay-per-view coming up, including a fascinating story about our immigration minister apparently going rogue with a dig at Number 10 on immigration. Did he not see how that ended for Suella Braverman? But the Sussex's cheerleader-in-chief is alleged in his highly spurious new book that the King and Prince William are locked in an increasing struggle as they compete for public approval and battle over securing the future of the monarchy. So, is it the end game for the royal family? Joining me now to discuss this are my royal masterminds, Lady C and Phil Dampier, both of you. Great stuff. Lady C, is Scobie just wrong about the future of the monarchy, do you think?
He's wrong about everything. It's ridiculous, you know. He says that the monarchy is not popular, but 66% of the people like it. He says the king is a disaster, but most people think he's done well. He says that Catherine is a disaster because she is very willing to be obliging and do what she's supposed to, and she should be criticised for that. I mean, he's got absolutely everything wrong. But he has a book to sell, he has money to make, and he's ruined himself as a royal correspondent. So he's drinking from the last chance saloon.
Okay, and Phil, I'll bring you in on this now. I mean, what do you make of some of the allegations that we've seen in this book? Apparently, they've had to pull it from the shelves in the Netherlands because there was some kind of accidental misprint that may or may not have revealed the alleged royal racist.
Good evening, Patrick. I think I found the solution. Actually, we should stick Omid in the jungle. Then he'd probably be as famous as Lady C. But talk about endgame. I think endgame is the word, isn't it? He started with the premise that the royal family is finished, and then he's trying to fit the facts around it, and they just aren't there. I mean, it's more popular than ever, the monarchy. It's served us well for 1,000 years. The King's doing well. The Prince and Princess of Wales are more popular than ever. And so I just don't see it. You know, he's barking up the wrong tree. You know, people are fed up with politicians, aren't they? And at the moment, you know, no one's got any good... I mean, we've had, 5 prime ministers in God knows how many years. There's no leadership there, so people like to unify around the royals, and that's why I think they're more popular than ever. And what fascinates me is the fact that countries like New Zealand and Australia, they say they want to become republics, but they're still putting it off the referendum to do it. So that shows they've even got a future there.
Yeah, absolutely. Lady C, I'll just follow up on that dramatic twist of the royal race row, because a panicked Omid Scobie has been forced to deny that he names the royal accused of questioning Archie's skin colour after the Dutch edition of his new book was dramatically pulled off the shelves, blaming a, quote, translation error. The book does reveal, however, that Meghan's claim that not one but 2 members of the royal household discussed Archie's skin colour while she was pregnant. What do you make, Lady C, of this idea of an alleged leak of the royal racist?
Well, I don't really care about who leaked what. I mean, I've already said who is supposed to have committed the offence, which was no offence whatsoever. I mean, it is, you know, I'm Jamaican and I come from a multiracial, multicultural society, and everybody speaks about what a child is going to look like if it has say a blonde parent and a dark-haired parent, or a brown parent and a white parent, you know, whether you're Italian or indeed if you're Scottish. Somebody's red-haired, somebody's dark-haired. Everybody speaks about the hair, the eyes, the colour of the skin. There's nothing racist about it. And what Meghan has tried to do is spin a perfectly ordinary, everyday practice into something racist. And I'm sorry, it doesn't wash.
OK. Phil, do you believe that Meghan and Harry have had nothing to do with the information in this book?
No, I don't, funnily enough. I mean, I think even if they haven't spoken to him recently, this is stuff that he's gleaned over the last few years, and he's definitely been in contact with him. And of course, the trouble is, you can't believe a word he says. He's lied about his age. He's lied about getting on private jets. We know that they were behind some of the information in Finding Freedom. So why should we believe him now?
Yeah, no, indeed. And what do you think, as well, Lady C, about some of these allegations about William's temper?
What about William's temper? William has a temper. I have a temper. Charles has a temper. Anybody who's under a lot of stress and who is genuine and sincere has a temper. I mean, what's the big deal? You know, and you don't think Meghan and Harry don't have tempers? I mean, Meghan is notorious for her temper, and so's Harry. And I mean, nobody's accusing Catherine or William of abusing their staff or of bullying the staff. And we can't say the same about William and about Harry and Meghan, because they have been roundly accused by several people of abusing their staff. So what's the big deal? William has a temper. That's perfectly normal. Don't you have a temper? Everybody has a temper.
Oh, I've got a temper, Lady C. Yes, you don't want to see my temper behind the scenes. There's a litany of deeply scarred producers, all in need of massive therapy, just queuing up out there, I'm afraid. But Phil, do you think there's any truth whatsoever to this idea that William is desperate to get on the throne, and he's trying to nibble away at Charles's heels? Because that's one of the other claims in this book.
He's definitely not getting desperate to get on the phone to Harry, I can tell you that much. No, listen, it's absolute rubbish, that, isn't it? I mean, he's got 3 young children, George, Louis and Charlotte. And, you know, they're not, if he came to the throne, just take it to its absolute extreme and say that the king abdicated in 5 years' time, you know, the kids would still be too young to do royal duties. So they're just not ready for it yet. So everything would then be on William and Kate. So I think he's perfectly happy to wait. The king could live another 20 years. So in that time, he's got plenty of time to prepare himself. No way is he pushing to become king sooner than that.
OK, now, Lady C, I want to just inform our viewers and our listeners that I have a couple of very, very explosive clips from Nigel in the Jungle to play in just a few moments' time. So we'll be revealing those to everybody. There were a lot of rumours about ITV potentially trying to airbrush Nigel out. There are a lot of rumours about them trying to do their best to stitch him up in there. So either cut him out of the TV or show deliberately provocative bits or edit it unfavourably in his direction. Lady C, you were in the Jungle. I mean, do you think that's something that may well be happening?
Well, it certainly happened with me, and so I can't see why it wouldn't happen with Nigel. In fact, the morning that they finally offered me to leave, I went into the BT, and I said to them, I am sick and tired of being harassed by Tony Hadley and Duncan Bannatyne. You have allowed this to happen for 2 weeks. If I had been a working class girl made good and they had been 2 lords, you would have shut it down 2 weeks ago. I said, you have 20 minutes, failing which I am calling my lawyer, Gerard Cookier, Chief of Litigation at Kingsley Napley. I said, you have 20 minutes, otherwise this is... And then within 20 minutes, they phoned me, they called me, they took me into the BT, and they then took me to Sandra Scott, who said, oh, we'll allow you to leave with your fee. If you normally leave early, you forfeit your fee. They said, we'll allow you to leave with your fee, and because you've had, you know, I'd had a bad back for 2 weeks, and they've been drugging me up to do this, to do the challenges, and they decided they would use my bad back as the excuse. But no, they stitched. I've never seen what happened with me, but I know what happened with me, so I don't know what everybody else saw. But they stitched me up royally, and of course they're going to stitch up Nigel. I mean, that it's par for the course.
Well, watch this space. Watch this space is all I will say. But thank you, both of you. Lovely, lovely stuff. That is, of course, Lady Colin Campbell and Phil Dampier as well. They were our royal masterminds. But coming up, Mail on Sundays, editor-at-large Charlotte Griffiths joins me live for reaction to tomorrow's front pages, as well as Omid Scobie's claim that Camilla is the anti-woke queen. But next, it is tomorrow's front pages. Today, coming in hot, and so is my panel. We bring you the most entertaining paper review you will get anywhere on telly, and some barnstorming clips from Nigel in the Jungle. Back in 2.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, I promised you very, very fast-paced updates, and you've got them, because we're crossing live now to Australia, where our reporter, Ben Leo, is beachside for the inside track on all the latest from the jungle. Ben, what is it?
Hi, Patrick. Good evening. An explosive show tonight. We thought that Nigel wasn't going to be included in the episode, but surprise, surprise, they managed to squeeze in 15 surprise minutes from somewhere. They extended the show. He had an argument with permanently offended YouTuber Nella Rose about cultural appropriation. This is the moment.
Why do they say water like that? Is it like a joke or something? We say it. We gotta put it in the water. It's patois. It's the Jamaican version of saying water. They say water.
You got to boil your water, and they say your water.
In fact, if you sang that, they'd call it cultural appropriation, Fred. They were. No, they were.
What do you mean, Nigel?
If a white person has a black accent, that's considered to be a crime. You know, they should be cancelled.
It depends in what context. If you're taking a piss, then you're taking a piss. But if you're not, then you're not.
So you can't. It's sort of can't win territory.
Nah, it just depends on the context.
You know, it's rather like, you know, you go to a fancy dress party, dress as something, and now the press will say it's cultural appropriation.
Like what? Because if he was to do blackface, then it is wrong.
Dress as a Mexican or whatever it is.
ITV then broadcast other clips of the campmates discussing that argument amongst themselves. Ex-EastEnders actress Danielle Harold said that Nigel's policies on migrants were, quote, inhumane. So I don't know if they're airbrushing Nigel deliberately. They are trying to make him look stupid, but he's coming out a winner. It's not working.
Interesting stuff, Ben. Thank you very, very much. We will have another clip for you shortly. That's Ben Leo there, our man down under. Now, let's bring you tomorrow's News Tonight in the most entertaining press preview you will get anywhere on the telly. The very first front pages have just been delivered for my press pack. OK, so the front of the Metro. Book fiasco names royal racist. Wow, we've been ahead of all of this, haven't we? We've talked about it all show. The Mirror. Book names royal racist. Thousands of copies pulped after senior family member incriminated. There we go. What have I got next? The Daily Star. Yes, I have. OK, you're a daft pair of witchetty grubs. TV's #1 naturalist, Chris Packham, blasts Anton Deck over, quote, animal abuse. Yep, there we go. That was a long time coming. They all say it's man flu season. The Daily Telegraph. Patients at risk from virtual GP sessions. Wrong or misdiagnoses have resulted in deaths or serious harm. I mean, weren't people saying this the whole time during the pandemic? But anyway, Sunak to force public consultations on tree felling in New Green Drive. And Gove suggests that COVID may have been made in a laboratory. Good front page, that on the Telegraph. We go over to the Eye now. That's our Immigration Minister, goes rogue with dig at number 10 on migration. And this is where we zone in. So, Ranald, as the resident Conservative MP on our panel, this is, well, quite an explosive intervention from our Immigration Minister, no?
Well, I think it's what the country wants. I think it's what Parliament wants, and he spoke very honestly today, which was applauded from all sides of the Conservative Party. You know, the truth is, immigration is an important issue to voters. The numbers, the net migration numbers, are too high, and you know, it's absolutely right that he is looking.
Well, what's he really said here? You know, he said that the public are sick of talk on cutting immigration. He's called for a serious package of fundamental reform, saying he would have done this before last Christmas if I could have done.
Absolutely, and he said there's strong arguments for a cap on the overall numbers, and that he's trying to look at measures including cutting the dependence that people can bring with them if they are here to work in a job or indeed to study or whatever else. So there are lots of things that need to be done. But
does Rishi Sunak not sack him now? I mean, is he not speaking out of turn here? Is he going to go the way of Suella?
Well, he's very close to the Prime Minister, so I'm sure he will remain in post. Plus, he has the support of colleagues in saying this. But, you know, I think this fits with some of the other things that the government's been trying to push, which is really important, around getting people who are still on benefits, who are not seeking work, into work, because those people should be filling the jobs that are, at the moment, being taken by people from overseas because they aren't willing to work.
All right, Rebecca, I'll throw it to you now, because you know, there are calls in this article to say that, you know, he's stretching the notion of collective responsibility here, that he has gone essentially a bit feral, and that maybe there would be some consequences for that?
I doubt that. I think probably my guess would be that he's saying, I'm not going to take the flak that Suella took. I'm not going to be the fall guy. And I have very few nice things to say about Suella. But were I Rishi, I'd be really missing her, because she had a real skill for saying something quite nasty that would make people really cross, which would really misdirect from the actual problem at hand. And I think he's probably standing up to say, I will not be your fall guy.
Suzanne, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? He's saying the public is sick of talk on cutting immigration and called for a serious package of fundamental reform, saying he would have done this before last Christmas if he could have done. Well, why couldn't they have done it?
Okay.
The fact is they could have done. And as far as I'm concerned, putting a cap on net migration is not good enough. The government can't reach it. We need to, I think, have a moratorium on it for a good couple of years at least to rebalance it.
OK, now just something that we saw there a bit earlier on was that clip of Nigel getting into a row with Nella on I'm a Celebrity about cultural appropriation. I just wondered if I could get the views of my panel on that. I mean, Ranald, what do you make of what we heard there? Do you think that Nigel was speaking out of turn? Do you think that, you know, they're trying to stitch him up by, you know, really pressing him on this? Or actually, you know, what was your take of that?
I think there are far too many people who are far too precious about far too many things. You know, the truth is some people are looking to portray themselves as a victim. The fact that today there's all sorts of suggestions in the media or in the arts that certain people can't play certain roles because they might not be, of a certain ethnicity or they might not be of a certain sexuality. It's absolutely bizarre.
Do you think I could play Rosa Parks?
You'll have to decide that for yourself.
You would have no issue with Rebecca Reed, the Rosa Parks story?
You'll have to decide that for yourself.
Do you, by that token, but to be fair, though, by that token, do you have an issue with people who are playing historically white characters, then, who are not white themselves?
I think it depends whether it's a story about someone's race. So Rosa Parks is a good example because it's a story about racism, so it would be very odd. If it's Anne Boleyn's race is irrelevant.
Is it though? I mean,
it is irrelevant in the sense that you could have.
it's not really irrelevant.
Most films aren't historically accurate. Most of the women in them have boob jobs. That's not historically accurate either. You see people with bikini waxes in Game of Thrones. That's not historically accurate. Neither were the dragons. But I think
really.
I'm so sorry, Randall. I've ruined it.
Go on, Susan. Well, what do you make of that? Do you think that Nella was being a bit touchy there, or was she within her rights to question what Nigel really meant?
No, I think cultural appropriation is nonsense, really. Cultural appropriation could also be called as imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And I think that's what we should get back to. If somebody wants to put, braids in their hair when they're white, or to eat Indian food when they're white, whatever, who cares? The fact is, it's because they like that culture, they appreciate it. And I think, frankly, this victimhood is
I'm just hearing in my ear, literally, as you were talking there, that apparently, after we played you that explosive clip of Nigel and Nella, apparently Nella has been rushed out of camp, and Nigel is now going to be doing Nella's trial tomorrow. I'm just getting this through to me. Apparently, it's a major health scare. Apparently, Nella has been rushed out of a health update as well. That we'll bring you more on this in a second. But concerning stuff anyway. Obviously, we hope she's OK. I think Nigel, from what I can gather anyway, is due to now be doing her trial. But we'll give you more on that in just a second, actually. So, look, we're going to be taking a little bit of a look at some of the other papers as well very, very shortly, because there are a couple of front pages that we held back. But should the UK return the Elgin marbles to Greece? My panel will discuss that. That's in this evening's edition of Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But yes, as I was saying, the Mail on Sunday's editor-at-large, Charlotte Griffiths, is just chomping at the bit, ready to get on your television screens. And we will be playing you another clip where Nigel is apparently branded inhumane in the camp in I'm a Celeb, and which member of the royal family is an anti-woke warrior. Loads to go at. Back in 10.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh!
No, thank you. My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. And Charlotte, we have been holding back the Daily Mail, and on the front it is Scobie book pulled for naming royal racist by mistake. Sales halted in Holland after Dutch version appears to identify family member who allegedly asked about Archie's skin colour. They also have something at the top there from Sarah Vine. If Harry and Meghan don't denounce this poison, we can only assume they endorse it. May I politely just say as well that these are, of course, two topics that we have been running with relentlessly this evening, so it does show that we were bang on the money. But, Charlotte, Omid Scobie has called Camilla the anti-woke queen who gets irked by gluten-free menus in his drivel-filled book Endgame. Well, her popularity's just gone through the roof, hasn't it? Your view, Charlotte?
Well, yes, I mean, we know this about Camilla. We know this about Camilla, don't we? Because she's friends with Jeremy Clarkson. She hunts foxes, she smokes fag, she drinks gin on horseback. We know she's anti-woke. I kind of love that about Camilla. She's game for a laugh. You know, she's not woke.
She's apparently rolls her eyes when veganism or gender identity are discussed, and allegedly thanked Piers Morgan for calling Meghan the Pinocchio princess after the Duchess spoke out about her mental health. I mean, it does look as though we do have an anti-woke queen, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we probably do. And she's a bit older. She's of that old-fashioned sort of aristocratic variety of woman that you get who, you know, just rolls with the punches and doesn't get too caught up in hysteria or neuroses. I mean, God knows she's not neurotic. She's put up with a lot over the years from the press and from Prince Charles. You know, she's not had an easy life, actually, in many ways. And she just gets on with it and cracks on. And her son is a real foodie, so I'm not that surprised about the gluten-free stuff either. We know he's a foodie because he's a food reviewer for the Mail on Sunday. So, yeah, she probably eats a bit of foie gras every now and again, doesn't mind a bit of grouse. Oh. She just gets on with it. She's Camilla.
It's a dream. It's a dream. We need a bit of that. I like it. I absolutely love it. Now, I am going to play you a little clip, Charlotte, if that's all right, of some more name-calling towards Nigel in the jungle. And we'll maybe have a little chat about what on earth is going on at ITV. But anyway, here we go.
He said something like, well, I can't get a GP appointment because of all the immigrants. I went, hang on. When we were talking about it, he was saying, like, it's just about the population, but the way that he's, like, promoted that in his work has just been a bit inhumane.
What do you make of this? I mean, Nigel being called inhumane there.
I don't understand. First of all, the show is inhumane because they're all starving to death. They're rolling around on rats and eating spiders. I mean, to sort of bring up inhumane is just a very odd word to bring up. It sounds to me, I'm only just catching up on this clip, but it sounds to me like she's mischaracterised what he said. He's just probably had a normal debate, and she's, you know, as usual when it comes to Nigel Farage, people just leap to these very negative monikers because they just desperately want to hate him so much. So he's, you know, he was quite right when he said, you know, he can't do wrong for doing right. I think he's going to face that a lot, and a lot of name calling. And if he was to name call somebody else on the show, I think he'd get himself in a lot of trouble with the Rape Brigade, wouldn't he?
No, indeed. I mean, there was talk last night of them trying to airbrush him out of it. Obviously, they've then extended an episode tonight after a bit of a stink was caused, and they've plonked a couple of things in which appears to be a row with Nella about cultural appropriation. We've then got someone there calling him inhumane. I mean, do you think there's a bit of a risk that they're trying to do a bit of a number on him here?
Yeah, well, I think obviously they picked up on all the coverage saying that he's being cut out from the show, and then they probably just waited for him to say something very controversial, and then they extended the show by 15 minutes, during which he said some controversial things and been slagged off by other mates in the camp. So it does seem like there's a bit of a pattern. I think if he was saying wonderful, glorious things, they might not have extended it by 15 minutes, but because he said something controversial, they're sort of doing the, you know, they're doing that, really.
I think I've just got a minute or so left with you. I do want to return to that front page that's in the Daily Mail, OK? So, Scobie book pulled for naming, quotes, royal racist by mistake. Now, he's come out and distanced himself from this and said, look, he's never done that at all. I mean, what's your interpretation of this? The Netherlands have had that book pulled. I mean, firstly, how will they recover?
Well, from what I gather, he's blaming it on a translation error. And I don't know, that sends an alarm bell with me, because if he's used a name and then said it's a translation error, how did that translation happen? I think there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked about that. And of course, you know, although the book was pulled from the shelves, it's going to go all over the internet. It's going to go viral. I wonder how tactical it was. I mean, I can only hope it wasn't, because it's a very cynical move if so.
No, indeed. All right, look, Charlotte, thank you very, very much. It's always an absolute delight to have you on the show. Much appreciated. That is the Mail on Sunday's editor-at-large, Charlotte Griffiths. Thank you very, very much. OK, so it is time to reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Suzanne, I will start with you. Who's your Greatest Britain?
So it's Jake Anea, who's the Vice President Political at Cardiff University's Conservative Society. Now, he delivered a speech basically condemning Hamas as terrorists, saying that they were the last people to support LGBT agenda and so on and so forth. He wasn't clapped. He was booed. He was heckled. It was appalling. He was accused of genocide. So
we've got a clip.
Have you? Brilliant. Good. Yeah, so absolutely shocking. So I'm really sorry you had to go through that, Jake, but I hope me nominating you for this will go some way towards mitigating your horrible harassment.
Well, there we go. We're off to a good start, I think. Ronald, Greatest Britain?
Well, given all that we've heard tonight and read in the papers, the royal family as a whole, you know, they do great service for our country. They're getting on with the job, standing firm, and not seeking to complain or explain about all the nonsense that this guy, whatever his name is trying to push forward.
Good stuff. OK, Rebecca?
I've also gone for quite a heavy political one. It's Girls Aloud.
Good.
Who are back on tour, bringing back some of that.
No, sorry, wait a minute. Your Greatest Britain are Girls Aloud purely because they're back on tour.
No, sorry, tickets also go on sale tomorrow.
This is their job.
Big advert. They do not have to do this in service of us, Patrick. They have looked at this country and they've said these people need something to hope for.
These people
have done nothing for us.
And they'll be bringing you such classics as
Love Machine.
Right, good, OK, fine. They're not the winners tonight. The royal family are. So the Greatest Britons are the royal family. Well done, the royal family. And to a lesser extent, Girls Aloud. Right, OK, so Union Jackasses.
So it's got to be the Cardiff University Students' Union for escorting Jake Anea off stage rather than shutting down the haters.
OK, all right, cool.
Sir Keir Starmer is my nomination today. He's open to returning the Elgin marbles. It shows that he's just talking down Britain and the country's not safe in his hands.
So the BBC apparently earlier on referred to the Elgin marbles by their traditional Greek name.
The Parthenon, whatever it's called. That's what they call it on Reddit.
It's not exactly pronounced like that, but it is something like that. But why do you care so strongly about the Elgin marbles?
But look, you know, Britain's a world city. The world city that it is has so many things for people to come and visit and see, and the collection at the British Museum is a fantastic, centrepiece for people from all over the world to come and enjoy. And I think it'd be a great shame if we start down this slippery slope, and the Prime Minister's spot on this one, the slippery slope. If we start loaning something to Greece, how would we ever get them back?
Well, this
is a loan that will never be repaid.
And it won't just be Greece, it'll be everywhere. Go on.
Sorry, I'm struggling not to get involved in the conversation. My union jackass is Liz Truss for writing a piece in the Wall Street Journal about how Donald Trump should be president again, as if anybody was asking.
OK. Well, I mean, they kind of literally are.
But why would anybody care what a woman who was 49 days a Prime Minister, that's whose opinion we need?
All right. This week's Union Jackass, or today's Union Jackass, in fact, is Cardiff University Students' Union. That feels like it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? Right. Wonderful panel. Thank you very, very much. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And make sure you keep it GB News, because we've got headliners coming your way in just a second for even more of what's inside the book. I'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Thank you all. I will see you then. Good night.
Aww.
Evening, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. The cold weather continues.
Quite a few of us having a frosty start tomorrow morning, and for some there'll be some sleet and snow around as well. This area of low pressure just edging down through the North Sea, bringing some gusty winds, but also bringing more showers to northern Scotland and down the eastern side into northeast England, southeast Scotland. 1 or 2 sleet and snow showers may produce a covering through the night, and it could turn icy as temperatures plummet. A few rain showers scattered over the Midlands, Wales, southwest England. A bit more cloud here may just prevent a frost, but really from the Midlands northwards, many areas will be below freezing. Rural spots